All right. For our last trick of the night, we will actually do kind of a basic movie review, sort of. We're gonna talk
There's
about.
There's nothing basic about us.
We're basic. What is it? Basic bitches?
I think so. I don't
know. Whatever.
We should not use those terms ever.
Yeah, Okay, anyways, we're going to talk about The Souvenir, which came out a couple weeks ago. It is directed by Joanna Hogg, who I don't know anything about.
She makes movies.
She's made 3 or 4
other
other movies. Yeah, I don't know. The overview I'm going to give it is that I can't even be too particularly...
You should give our caveat to the viewing of this film that we both experienced.
Yeah, so I can't even give a real review is really what I'm trying to say here. Which is because, as some of our viewers may know, we have a hearing problem. We were born with a genetic hearing loss. And while we both have hearing aids, it is fucking impossible to hear what anyone is saying in this movie. I missed over half the dialogue. There are entire sequences and scenes that I do not know what people were saying to each other. So in a lot of ways...
It's not a dialogue-heavy movie.
Not a dialogue-heavy movie. And I'm going to
argue, I caught more of the dialogue than you, I think. I feel like I got 75% of it. I don't know that we have a hearing problem so much as that movie has an audio problem.
Yes. This is one of those weird moments where I get frustrated at filmmakers, and otherwise this movie is really well made, so it's not like a detriment to Joanna Hogg, the director, but it's, or at least I hope you pronounce it Hogg, I don't know, Hogue, whatever. Joanna. It's just, I get so annoyed at movies that want to make it authentic by having mumbling characters.
Right.
I don't care if it makes it authentic.
Yeah.
You can make a character mumble and still make it audible and so that you can hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
Mumblecore was a genre.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a lot of their movies. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 or pieces of them, and I could more or less hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
The Primer is a movie where the characters are constantly talking against each other and mumbling, and I still heard most of that.
Most of that.
Most of it, not all of it. But like, and this is why, and I'm like frustrated because I wanted to understand this movie more, but I just couldn't because I couldn't hear all the dialogue.
So we're gonna let that,
lay that out there.
So then, I mean, it's a semi-autobiographical, is my understanding.
Yeah, I don't know how autobiographical, but...
I've never met Joanna, since we're on a first name basis now.
Yes.
About a young woman, a young film student in a bad relationship.
Yes. And it is about her, not him. It's really, he's there, you get stuff from the main...
Well, it's autobiographical.
But it's autobiographical towards the female character, towards the director. She doesn't, do a 2-lead movie.
Right. It's mostly from the point of view of Julie.
Julie, played by Honor Swinton Byrne, daughter of Tilda Swinton, who plays the mother.
Right. Which I have to say, normally it's interesting because so many, especially older women, it's like they play the mom, and you're like, God, when are they going to give them a better part? It was nice to see Tilda Swinton play the mom, because she so rarely gets to play, and she was like one of those vague British mothers that just seems kind of worried about things, and she had a scarf over her head at one point.
She's a fascinating actress. She will play any part, any role.
But that's the thing, she actually gets to play all those different roles, whereas normally...
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see her do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say for our, pre-spoiler discussion, I liked this more than I thought, and I liked it more, I just saw it yesterday, the further I get away from it. I liked it. I do think it has some vagueness issues beyond just the audio being hard to hear that I think could have made it stronger, but I think it is a really kind of insightful look into how it feels to be that young and in that kind of a destructive relationship. And for me, I would like to think that even at that age, and I'm so withdrawn and unlikely to, even make friends or relationships that it is unlikely. But you really, as a woman watching this, it's like, oh, this can happen to any of us, to a degree. You're just, she's 24, but that's much younger than you think it is at the time.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see, you know, unless you have a certain strength of character, or like me, you just don't talk to people, how easy it is to fall into that kind of trap and just not be able to get out of it.
Yeah, I also ultimately liked this movie, with the asterisk that it's both a good thing. It's a good thing that I want to see it a second time, because I liked it enough and I want to really understand it to see it a second time. At home with subtitles, which is the bad part.
Yeah.
But I liked kind of the same thing. The filmmaking in this movie is excellent. The cinematography and the editing I thought was really good. The editing is kind of subtle. Mm-hmm. It's not like showy. It's just really well placed and timed. Mm-hmm. Some of the actual physicality of the location is confusing. We both got confused.
Right.
That's a bit of a...
I found the whole beginning confusing for reasons that didn't always have to do with the audio.
Right.
I find it hard to locate myself in her apartment. I got confused about who was living in the apartment, which rooms were the room, and it was kind of important to know these things.
Yes, and that was a little frustrating, but I still thought the actual composition of all the shots was really nice. I thought the really muted tones of the colors was really interesting. I thought a lot of the acting was really good, both Honor Swinton Byrne and Tom Burke, who plays the...
Byrne, I think, not Byrne. Byrne.
Honor Swinton Byrne and Tom Burke.
Yeah.
I liked both of their performances. They were both really good. Tilda Swinton was really good. I mean, she's sort of the...
I like the guy who played her dad, too. He was just like, I know that guy. I know and the American version of
Richard
that guy.
Richard Ayoade shows up for, like, a scene in a movie where I'm like, why are you in this, Richard Ayoade? But he's good at it.
I liked him in it.
He was very good. Like, it is a very well-made movie in that regard. So, like, even when I wasn't understanding things, I was like, all right, this is just kind of excellent filmmaking. Yeah. So, I want to see it again, and I think on a second watching with subtitles, I might really like it. It's a bit... My last thought on it before we do spoilers is, someone could tell me this is the best film of the year that they've seen so far, and they might see all year, and I don't think I could dispute that point too much. Like, I don't have strong feelings against that, whereas, you know, other films I might. And someone could also walk up to me and be like, it was annoying, and I found the whole pacing and the way it was happening annoying, and I just didn't like it. And I could I can sort of see either version of it. So it's like, it's definitely a very good movie. It is a smaller audience than I think it probably should be because of some of the choices it makes, but very good movie. Of some kind.
I did see a review on the, like, it has, like, pretty good critical ratings, but, like, its Google user rating is, like, 40-something%, which, like, it doesn't matter. But I saw one of them is like, this is just about some stupid rich girl and some stupid drug user and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, what did this person think they were gonna go see? Like, it's kind of like...
I'm not sure what you think you're getting out of that Google user.
Yeah, someone who went to see the Souvenir and then went home and, like, typed this. I think it's just surprised. How did you even end up seeing that movie?
You wandered into the wrong theater somehow, but it only, like, plays at Laemmle, and, like, it's only probably, like, only playing in, like, here in New York and maybe a few of the theaters. Like, you'd have to wander into one of these, like, small theaters to see this movie. So, like, how do you do that?
I was just surprised. So, spoiler time.
Spoiler time. 1, 2, 3... Spoilers.
We didn't do that with the other one. So do you want to ask me the question?
I did do that with the other ones.
Yeah.
I did 1, 2, 3. Spoilers.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Excellent. I'm glad you pay so much attention to me.
Earlier today you did that?
Yes.
Ask me the question you wanted to ask me.
Oh, yes. So, Sarah, last year we saw a movie called Summer 1993, which is ostensibly a very realistic, very realism-type movie. That's the sort of...
Cinema Verite?
Cinema Verite.
Pigeon
style.
Verite.
Pigeon Verite. Oh. Except it's not a documentary, but it is very realistic. Talk to me about that movie versus this movie. Now I know you like this movie, but why might Summer 1993 work more for you? Because I think you like it more than this one. I don't know. I
don't like it more than this one.
Talk to me about those two movies.
Here's what I came up with. So they're both kind of slice of life, very... not strongly plot-driven, as you might say. You know, I mean, it's not a Marvel movie. No one's trying to get the thing to take it there to do the thing.
Lots of story, but almost no plot.
Yeah. The difference to me is in summer 1993, you're there in the moment with that family.
Yes.
And it's very crisply shot, and the audio is very clear, and you know what's happening, and the scenes kind of have little arcs between scenes, or, you know.
Yeah.
You have this scene with the family, and then this scene, and then you see what... The Souvenir is like a memory. It's shot like a memory. It's disjointed like a memory. There's lots of conversation that doesn't tell you. I would say Richard Ayoade has the most on-the-nose dialogue, and it's great, and I like it. But, like, almost never, I think I was saying to you, it's like that Hemingway, Hills Like White Elephants, where, yes, you know, it's a conversation about abortion, but they never say abortion. It's like a whole movie of that, where it's like, yeah, no, almost never are they actually talking about, and you kind of have to figure it out. And I think that leads to that beginning weakness, because, you know, if this is her memories, then she knows what the flat looks like and how she met Anthony and how the relationship progressed. But as people outside, it's like, oh, I don't know. Like, are they sleeping? Like, what's happening? Like, I was totally lost at the beginning. And I think while I liked that memory effect, that vagueness, you know, they go to Venice and we see, like, just a few glimpses. Like, I don't even know what he had to do with dressmaking. I was very confused by that. But it gives it the feeling of, like, I could describe relationships to you and it would probably sound like that movie where it's just a bunch of scene. Whereas back to summer 1993, it's like, we know that the mom died. We know that she's getting picked up by the aunts. We know that they're out in the countryside. Like, at every step of the way, it pretty much leads straight from one to the other.
In summer 1993, each scene, even though you sometimes join in media res, or whatever the phrase is, it still feels like there's a beginning and an end. Whereas in The Souvenir, it does feel like it's been pulled out of something, which is a part of why I like the editing for it, because it kind of cuts in and out on lines where you could almost imagine there being more of the conversation,
right,
which is why it feels like a memory, I think. Whereas, and in summer 1993, it is supposed to evoke a memory of a time by bleaching. They bleached out some of the colors in that movie. At least I think that's what they did, if I'm remembering correctly.
I remember it as being pretty crisp. I could be wrong.
I think it's crisp, but they've got like a slightly yellow hue almost, or like they've got a slight bleaching. Mm-hmm. Whereas in, again, The Souvenir, it's kind of muted. It's like a faded photograph.
Yeah.
And like, that's definitely one of the strong differences between the two. The reason I sort of think of them together, or I thought of them together, is because they're both tackling something in a sort of realistic kind of way.
They're both semi-autobiographical.
Both semi-autobiographical. They're both evoking a memory of a time, even if one is definitely not a memory, but is still evoking that kind of sense, that sense memory, you know, in summer 1993. And I was thinking, like, maybe the reason that The Souvenir didn't work quite as much for me, though I still like them both. They're both very good movies, and neither is exactly a Theo movie. I think The Souvenir had slightly more repetition to it, and the repetition of location and the way they shot the locations kind of the same in a lot of scenes, which is still very good filmmaking. Had me almost like, it is, maybe it makes it more like a memory, because it's like you're not remembering the angles as well. You just kind of all remember it flat like that, maybe, you know, all sort of the same kind of way. I don't know. There was just something slightly that they were both very realistic takes. They both felt like they were approaching realism, but The Souvenir didn't quite grasp something.
Well,
I could be persuaded. But again, I want to rewatch it because I could really be persuaded the other direction. I feel
like the summer 1993 was doing something simpler, because the push-pull the whole time was like, is she going to settle in with her new family?
Yeah.
And she would act out.
Yeah.
Would she act out enough to push them away? Would she never accept their love? But it's all kind of right there. The Souvenir has a lot of questions that we don't really get answers to. Does he really work for the Foreign Office? Where did he get that pretentious douchebaggy robe? What's the dressmaking about?
Yeah.
When did she find out about his drug usage? Like, there's a lot of things that are very...
It almost feels like it might even be in that Richard Ayoade scene. Like, you're not... It's like...
It could be, but do you know for sure? I mean, I feel about as confident about that as I do about him working for the Foreign Office.
Right.
And there's a lot of things where you think he's probably well off, but it turns out his family is just these people who live in the countryside. Yeah. I don't know who that girl they went with was. I mean, there's a lot of, like, vagueness that kind of opens it up to... I feel like there's bigger questions being tackled in the Souvenir, but also, like, I'm left with a lot of questions about... And maybe it doesn't matter. I mean, maybe that's the quality of her own memory, where she didn't really know who this guy was at the end of the day. She just knew that she loved him.
Yeah.
But it's hard because with the Souvenir, I never understood why she loved him. He just seemed like... He did encourage her in a few places. Like, he wasn't, like, just completely ruining her life the whole time.
No.
But I've also seen a lot of women in relationships like that where I'm like, I don't know why you're with this person. So it was hard because I didn't gain that insight. Whereas with Summer 1993, I mean, she's a child. Like, you just love, you know, like, I mean, a lot of people don't love children. But, you know what I mean? You don't have to, like... And she wasn't a drug addict, you know, she's just a little child who lost her mom. So it was more understandable why everybody was trying to make the situation work. Whereas with Souvenir, I was like, I wish... Like... You know, I kind of wanted him to die so that she could just, you know, get on with her life, you know?
Yeah, that's dark, but yeah. I think in Summer 1993, I felt like there were more moments where, because the through line is simpler, I could look at the scenes more and be like, oh, right. The reason she's dressed up this way is she's copying her mom, which sort of informs who her mom was. Right. So there's that level.
Well, when the little girl is dressing up in what we would consider slutty, you know.
Yeah, you know, glasses, that weird pink boa thing or whatever, you know, fuzzy thing, and it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's like a more flamboyant outfit, maybe, something like that. So you get a clue into that family, you know, her
right,
home life.
And you spend so much of the Souvenir just trying to figure out what's going on at all, that you don't get to really enjoy the scene.
I don't get to you can't chew the scenery in the Souvenir as much as you can in Summer 1993. And
because
again,
you're just like, what are they saying? Where are they going?
Yeah.
What room is this?
And then you also get scenes where, like, she's picking him up from a drug deal or something.
I think so.
And it's like, there's not actually a lot happening in that scene.
Yeah.
So it's that weird thing where...
I think that's mostly to let us know, like, she's in it now. Like, she's full on.
So it's still informing something, and there is something to think about in that scene. Again, with subtitles at home, I might suddenly really like this movie, where I can ruminate on things more. I can understand what the questions even are, so I can understand whether they're being answered or not. And that might make me have more in those scenes. Because, like, my girlfriend didn't like the Souvenir. Jill didn't like it. She was just like, nope, not interested.
Yeah.
She couldn't hear it that well. She just was uninterested in it. She didn't feel like there was enough.
She also didn't like the photograph, you know.
I feel like it's that idea that, like, in the slow moments, the reason slow moments work for people, I think, is that there's still something to think about. Like, you're chewing the scenery, sometimes enjoying a pretty shot, but you're still thinking about what happened in the scene prior.
You're working through things with the character, maybe.
Yeah, and in the Souvenir, I feel like there's a weird tug and pull between, like, too much in some scenes, not enough in one.
I agree.
There's a little bit of a thing.
But I think I liked... She was just so awkward sometimes, the way we would be that awkward at that age. And, you know, the way she struggled to articulate herself a lot of the time. We struggled to articulate ourselves a lot of the time. You know, we're talking in front of a camera and trying to say the right thing and get it all right. I thought that was very well done. I thought it really did evoke that uncertainty, cluelessness, and just desire to love and be loved, and brokenheartedness when the person you love is deeply broken.
Yeah.
And the feeling of being outside that and being like, I don't know what you see in him, but that I've experienced. The question I have...
Experienced through other people.
Yes. The question I have is, so I earlier made the incredibly snobbish statement that someone who goes online to just be like, I hate this movie, like, why would they see this movie? Also, isn't it incredibly snobbish of the movie itself to be called The Souvenir and based on a Fragonard painting called The Souvenir?
And you know the name Fragonard, which just, anyways, keep going.
Well, I know Fragonard is, like, one of the most famous artists of the Rococo period. Like,
And many people just were like, yes, of course.
But if you know what the Rococo is, you're going to know who Fragonard is. Like, this is not like...
Right.
I'm not pulling out, like, obscure...
Artists.
Like, I really like Caspar David Friedrich. You know who Caspar David Friedrich is?
No.
He's like a mid-tier romantic painter of the whatever. So... Yes. Fragonard is like... He's like the Da Vinci of the Rococo, except I wouldn't compare them, but... And it's barely explained. Like, is naming your movie The Souvenir to reference a not the most famous painting by Fragonard is The Swing, and not to reference some painting that's not the most famous painting by this guy, and then not really ever completely explaining it. Does that create a barrier to entry with your movie?
It certainly provides for people to look at it and kind of know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
But I have two thoughts on that. One, I think they actually do kind of explain it, because she says what she thinks of the painting and he says what he thinks of it. And the whole movie is this sort of tug and pull between, is she what she thought, is she what he thought? You know, and there's that whole ideal of who is she becoming, because it's also kind of a coming of age story.
It's just such a little short scene, and it's such a little painting.
But that's it. It's like this. It's that she is almost a little part of it, but she becomes a much bigger. You know, It's like even that. My second thing is that a lot of reviewers, and I don't think you might have picked up on this, or maybe you have and just haven't mentioned it, and I didn't really pick up on it until late in the movie, until I watched a review, and I was like, oh wait, duh. It might also be a reference to AIDS. He's a heroin user taking drugs. And at the end of the movie, there's this thing that says The Souvenir Part 2.
Which I think is the fun. It's like,
which is the most bizarre. It's like a Marvel movie or something.
It's going to be like the first Souvenir, only it's going to be in Vegas this time.
Yeah.
And that's just what it makes me think.
I wanted something to come on screen and be like, see Spider-Man again in The Souvenir Part 2. Which reminds me, guess who's going to be in The Souvenir?
I know, I was just going to say, but you're going to see The Souvenir too, because...
My boyfriend Robert Pattinson is in it. I was probably going to see it anyways, because I was curious, but I'm definitely going to see it now. Also, Richard Ayoade shows back up in it.
I think it's like, you talk about, like, I want art to be accessible for all, right?
Yes.
Like, I do, and I don't think that having the title be The Souvenir and having it be a reference to, like, a painter that if you know painters, you'd know, but if you don't know painters, why the hell would you know? Like... I
didn't know what I wanted. So.
I mean, they've got a movie coming out called Yesterday that's all about the Beatles songs. And, like, part of me is like, so if you don't know or care about the Beatles, there aren't a lot of people who don't, but there are people who
don't. And more every day as we get older. Yeah.
Right, like, does that, like...
I don't know. I think it's fine. I get what you're saying, but also I think art can be for all... And also, only 1% of people will want to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, and right? I mean, I guess it's such a... It's not that they used the painting, and it's just that it's the title of the movie. Yeah. Like, if they just had the painting in as part of it, it just... But then again, there's a lot of movie titles where I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess that sounds cool. Yeah. Okay. One last question. Okay. Done with this. I have one last question for you, not related to any of the movies we've talked about.
Excellent. What is it?
Are you more excited for the next movie from the guy that did Hereditary or from the guy who did The Vavitch?
Oh. Well, hasn't the guy who did The Vavitch done more movies? Or has he only done The Vavitch?
Does that affect whether you're more excited about his next movie or the other guy's
Don't I have more? Because Hereditary, that's his only movie. Mm-hmm. So that's all I have to think about in this question.
I'm not sure what else the Vavitch guy has done. Maybe. I can look it up while you formulate your...
I know, I need to formulate a thought here.
I'm actually surprised, because considering what we just talked about, I'm surprised you're not already, like, of course.
Well, so... The thing is, I really liked The Vavitch, and I really liked Hereditary. And you're talking about the poster of Midsummer? Is that what you were talking about?
No, I'm talking about who's in the sequel.
To...
The Vavitch. It's going to be called The Lighthouse.
Oh, that's right! It's that guy! Oh, no, yeah, I want to see that movie.
There we go.
I forgot it was the guy who did the Witch, or the Witch. It's just called the Witch. It's not actually two V's. Stop trying to ruin my brain. I'm more interested in seeing The Lighthouse than Midsummer, but to be fair, those are two movies that I'm really looking forward to.
And you're more excited to see The Lighthouse because
Robert Pattinson is in it, but also my boyfriend is in it, but also one of my favorites, Willem Dafoe, is in it. Yeah. He's not. I don't have much of a crush on him like I do Robert Pattinson. By the way, I've never seen a Twilight movie, and did not see any of the Harry Potter movies.
We have to watch a Twilight movie.
I haven't seen the Harry Potter movies. I know. Get over it. And he was in those movies.
You haven't seen any of the Harry Potter movies?
I saw the first one, I think.
I've seen like 1, 2, 5, 6.
My girlfriend keeps threatening to watch all of them, but I need a free weekend.
The Witch was his first feature film.
Is it his only one? He hasn't done anything since then? I don't think he has.
No.
Probably not. Yeah. And so, I don't know. I only know Robert Pattinson basically from the movies I've seen in the last few years, which are like Good Times, which he's very good in, and High Life, which he's very good in. I think we're going to watch... And Damsel, which he's very good in.
I think we're going to watch Twilight together soon.
Maybe we'll do that as like the lead up to the Lighthouse, and you know, so you see all that.
I do want to see both too. I'm probably a little more excited about the Lighthouse because honestly, I like The Witch a little more than Hereditary. But I mean, it's a little splitting hairs.
Yeah, I feel like that's splitting hairs too.
It's like I like a really good sushi just a little more than a really good burrito.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right. Done. Yeah.